In the vast expanse of the universe, there are three undeniable constants: entropy, the speed of light, and the infuriating ability of aliens to overcomplicate absolutely everything. The great assembly hall of the Galactic Engineering Council hummed with eager energy, which, to be perfectly honest, was essentially like watching paint dry, only with more tentacles involved. The beings assembled were the brightest minds from 17 different species, all gathered to witness what was meant to be the most groundbreaking presentation of the cycle. Dr. Olivia J. Collins took the podium, her iridescent scales shimmering beneath the hall's crystal-clear lighting. Her 4 arms moved in flawless unison as she adjusted the hollow projector, a task that somehow required turning all 27 knobs precisely 3.14159 degrees clockwise, because, of course, even turning on a projector here needed to reference pi. "Esteemed colleagues," she began, her translator converting her natural clicks and whistles into standard galactic. "Today marks the culmination of 57 years of theoretical work on the quantum fusion engine." She paused for dramatic effect, though it was somewhat spoiled by a muffled sneeze coming from the back row, where someone was struggling to contain it behind their breathing apparatus. The hologram materialized above the stage, revealing an insanely intricate engine design. It looked as if someone had thrown every engineering principle ever invented into a blender and topped it off with a sprig of quantum mechanics. "As you can see," Collins continued, her chest frills puffing out in pride, "the theoretical framework suggests that by aligning the quantum probability matrices with the subharmonic resonance frequencies of crystallized dark matter, we could achieve near-perfect energy conversion rates." She gestured to a particularly dense cluster of equations hovering beside the engine schematic. Of course, the construction challenges are significant. From the audience, Professor Noah Quill, a blob-like being whose species had evolved from sentient math equations, yes, really, raised one of his probability tendrils. "By my calculations, construction and calibration would take approximately 347 years, assuming optimal conditions and 0 tea breaks." A ripple of murmurs spread through the crowd. Someone in the back started an awkwardly slow tentacle clap, which was every bit as uncomfortable as it sounds. That's when Max Fixer Johnson, the human exchange engineer who had been lazily slouched in the back row while doodling improved coffee designs in their notepad, suddenly looked up. The expression on their face was one usually reserved for someone who just watched someone try to push a door marked pull. Excuse me?" Max shot their hand up, nearly knocking the atmospheric filter off the Vrothan sitting beside them. "Sorry, but why would it take that long?" The silence that followed was thick, one of those rare moments you get when someone asks why they can't just download more RAM for their quantum computer. Dr. Olivia J. Collins's scales shifted to a shade of purple that could either mean she was deeply offended or just a little bit queasy. "Perhaps," she said slowly, with the patience usually reserved for explaining faster-than-light travel to particularly dense asteroids. "You misunderstand the complexity of the—" No, I get it," Max interrupted, standing up and walking toward the hologram. They circled it, squinting at it, and occasionally making hotum noises that caused several nearby aliens to check their universal translators for errors. "It's basically just a fancy fusion reactor with some quantum probability manipulation thrown in to stabilize the magnetic containment field, right?" The room erupted in a symphony of gasps, clicks, and a sound that could only be described as a Baroque pipe organ having a midlife crisis. Dr. Olivia J. Collins' scales now cycled through colors faster than a malfunctioning disco ball. "Just this?" she stammered. "This is the most complex piece of engineering ever conceived. The quantum harmonics alone took 12 years to calculate." Max scratched their head, wiping a bit of grease across their forehead from their perpetually dirty hands. "Yeah, but have you tried turning it off and on again?" And that, dear readers, was the moment when the Galactic Engineering Council learned that humans didn't just think outside the box. They had never even acknowledged the box's existence. It wouldn't be the last time they discovered this, but it was certainly the most entertaining. Dr. Olivia J. Collins' expression seemed to suggest she was seriously reconsidering the Council's decision to allow humans into the galactic community. The rest of the audience was split between scandalized horror and morbid curiosity, with a few of the more adventurous souls already starting a betting pool on how long it would take for the human to be ejected from the premises. They had no idea what was about to unfold. Max's casual dismissal of the quantum fusion engine's complexity hung in the air like a lead balloon, which, coincidentally, would have been lighter than the tension now hanging over the assembly hall. "Pretty straightforward, actually," Max continued, utterly oblivious to the aneurysms happening simultaneously in 17 different species. They pulled out a tablet and began sketching, leaving greasy smudges all over the holographic interface. "See, if you just bypass this overly complicated quantum matrix relay and replace it with a good old-fashioned probability dampener." They paused when they realized the room had grown quieter than a mime convention in a library. Dr. Olivia J. Collins' scales had turned a shade of red usually reserved for supernovas and angry traffic lights. "Are you suggesting," she asked, her calm voice now the calm before an extinction-level event, "that you could build this engine faster?" "Well, yeah," Max shrugged. "Give me a good team and some coffee, and we could probably knock it out before lunch." The resulting chaos sounded like someone had dropped a box of angry cats into a drum factory. Professor Noah Quill actually divided by 0 in shock, causing a small temporal hiccup. From the back of the room, Axon 874, Dr. Olivia J. Collins' assistant, emerged from the crowd. Axon's species seemed to be a bizarre fusion of a praying mantis and a pocket calculator. "Impossible," Axon declared, their optical sensors locking onto Max with cold precision. "Our probability matrices indicate a 0.00001% chance of completion within one standard solar rotation." "Never tell me the odds," Max grinned, then paused. "Wait, Rome franchise?" Dr. Olivia J. Collins' frills flared. "Very well, human, a challenge. You have one standard rotation of this planet to prove your theory." She practically spat the last word, as if it were the most revolting form of quantum physics. "Cool," Max said, already pulling out their communicator. "Let me just call in the A-team." "The what team?" "Never mind, before your time, and planet, and species." Meanwhile, the betting pool, which had started as a quiet murmur in the back of the hall, had now morphed into a full-blown spectacle. The odds were being meticulously documented by Axon, while various scientists placed their wagers, everything from research grants to their firstborn Dravaxi. Max's communicator buzzed to life, projecting 3 holograms that somehow managed to look both professional and completely chaotic at the same time. "Yo, Fixer!" Skylar Sparks McCoy appeared first. Their hair defied several laws of physics, and their quantum mechanics degree hung crookedly in the background. They were upside down, testing an anti-gravity theory that probably violated at least 3 safety protocols. "What's the Craig?" "Ryan Harper," Mally materialized next, wiping their hands on a rag that was more likely to leave grease than remove it. Their workspace was cluttered with half-finished projects, including a toaster, modified to achieve faster-than-light travel. The last hologram flickered on, revealing Dr. Morgan T. Griffin, theoretical physicist and proud owner of the galaxy's most impressive resting scowl. They were in the middle of writing an equation that spanned several holographic screens, each one covered in what looked like mathematical graffiti. "This better be good, Max," Dr. Griffin muttered. "I was just about to prove string theory wrong again." "How fast can you all get to the Galactic Engineering Council?" Max asked, ignoring the increasingly agitated color shifts in Dr. Olivia J. Collins' scales. "Give us 10 minutes, Skylar replied, already gathering equipment. "I've got a new teleporter I've been meaning to test, anyway." "Is it safe?" Dr. Morgan T. Griffin asked, raising an eyebrow. "Define safe," Skylar grinned. "I'll bring the duct tape," Ryan added cheerfully. "And the WD-40? Max asked. "What kind of amateur do you think I am?" Max shot back. "I'd bathe in WD-40. Axon's optical sensors were spinning so rapidly they were starting to overheat. "You cannot possibly intend to use adhesive strips and lubricant on a quantum fusion engine." "Watch us," all 4 humans replied in unison. Dr. Olivia J. Collins raised all 4 of her arms in sheer exasperation. "This is preposterous. The engine requires perfectly calibrated quantum—" Yeah, Max interrupted, pulling up the engine schematics on their tablet. Hey, Skylar, remember that quantum flux capacitor we built for the office coffee machine? The one that makes coffee so strong it technically exists in two states simultaneously? That's the one. Bring it. The assembled alien scientists watched, horrified, as the humans began their preparations with all the meticulousness of a sugar-crazed toddler in a toy store. Axon was frantically updating the odds, which had gone from impossible to technically possible, but deeply concerning. You have one rotation, Dr. Olivia J. Collins reminded them, her voice carrying the weight of several advanced degrees and at least 3 mental breakdowns. Perfect, Max smiled, watching as a flash of light announced the arrival of their team, thankfully with all limbs attached and only minor violations of the laws of physics. That gives us time for coffee breaks. The last thing they heard before diving into preparations was Axon quietly updating the betting odds to include the probability of universal collapse due to human engineering, moderate to high. The next hour in the great assembly hall could only be described as organized chaos. If by organized you meant absolute pandemonium, with occasional bursts of accidental brilliance. The humans had taken over the main engineering bay, transforming the pristine laboratory into something that looked like a cross between a garage sale and a quantum physics experiment gone horribly wrong. "Give me that quantum spanner," Skylar called out, hanging upside down from what appeared to be a self-made gravity harness. They were elbow-deep in the engine core, casually rearranging parts that were worth more than the GDP of several small planets. "Catch!" Ryan tossed the tool with casual disregard for both gravity and the fact that the spanner was technically sentient. The quantum spanner screamed in binary as it arced through the air. Dr. Olivia J. Collins's scales twitched in frustration. "That is a precision instrument, calibrated to—" "Yeah, but if you hit it just right—" Skylar caught the spanner and gave it a solid whack against the engine housing. The quantum harmonics immediately aligned with a satisfying hum. "See? Percussive maintenance works every time." Across the room, Dr. Morgan T. Griffin was engaged in what could only be described as a hostile takeover of the facility's main computer system. Their fingers flew across multiple holographic keyboards while they muttered equations under their breath. "You're bypassing the safety protocols," Axon observed, their optical sensors widening in horror and perhaps a hint of admiration. And was that a hint of admiration? "Safety protocols are more like safety suggestions," Dr. Morgan T. Griffin replied without looking up. "Besides, I rewrote them. They're better now." "Better?" Axon leaned in, genuinely curious despite themselves. "Yeah," Dr. Morgan T. Griffin replied nonchalantly. "Now they actually make sense. Your original ones had more redundancy than a backup system's backup system's backup." Meanwhile, Max was orchestrating the chaos with the precision of a conductor, managing to keep everything running just on the edge of madness. Having had more than enough of Skylar's quantum state coffee, Max grinned and asked, "Hey Ryan, remember the trick we pulled off on the Mars colony's atmospheric processor? The one that got us banned from the entire northern hemisphere?" "That's the one," Ryan answered, pulling out their trusty roll of duct tape, the silver material gleaming ominously beneath the laboratory lights. A collective gasp spread through the alien audience as Ryan began applying the tape to a crystal matrix that was worth more than their entire year's research budget. Dr. Olivia J. Collins looked as though she was on the verge of passing out, her scales cycling through colors at a rate that would make any chameleon jealous. "You can't! That's not—" "The crystalline matrix requires perfect quantum alignment," she began, but Axon, her assistant, interrupted. "It just needs to stay in place," Ryan said casually, giving the tape a final pat. "The quantum stuff sorts itself out if you give it some space. It's like cats always landing on their feet." Skylar, who had somehow reconfigured an entire section of the engine while participating in this conversation, nodded wisely. "Quantum mechanics is basically just spicy physics. You've got to let it work its magic." Dr. Olivia J. Collins turned to Axon for backup, but was met with Axon taking notes as if witnessing a religious experience. "Fascinating," Axon muttered. "The humans seem to be operating on an entirely different engineering philosophy. By reducing system complexity, they're actually boosting efficiency. Wait, is that WD-40 on the temporal stabilizer?" The best stuff in the universe, Max confirmed, generously spraying the stabilizer. If it moves and shouldn't, use duct tape. If it doesn't move and should, use WD-40. Everything else is just filler. Dr. Morgan T. Griffin, who had by now completely reprogrammed the facility's operating system because it was giving me a headache, looked up from their work. The quantum probability matrices are fighting me on this calculation. Anyone got a rubber band? Without missing a beat, Skylar pulled one from their hair, sending a few complicated tools clattering to the floor. Here you go. The rubber band was swiftly integrated into a system designed to control space-time itself. Somehow, it worked better than the original setup. This is impossible, Dr. Olivia J. Collins muttered, watching in disbelief as her meticulously designed project was being modified by humans with the attention span of caffeinated squirrels. The thermal recycling system alone should take weeks to calibrate. Oh, that? Max pointed to a section of the engine that hummed along happily. We bypassed it. Turns out if you let the excess heat flow into this makeshift radiator system we built out of Ryan's old coffee thermos, it works just fine. My coffee thermos is now part of a quantum fusion engine? Ryan asked, pausing in the middle of their work. The good news is it still keeps coffee hot. The bad news is the coffee now exists in a quantum superposition of both drunk and not drunk until you observe it. Sweet-free coffee, Max added. Axon, having completely abandoned any attempt at skepticism, was now actively helping, passing tools to the humans and asking questions that would make any respectable alien engineer's exoskeleton crack. But how do you account for the quantum uncertainty principle when you're just eyeballing it? That's the beauty of it, Skylar explained, somehow managing to work above and below the engine at the same time thanks to their questionable grasp of gravity. Quantum particles are uncertain by nature, right? So if we're uncertain about our measurements, we're actually working with them in their most natural state. Dr. Olivia J. Collins interrupted, her voice tinged with exasperation. That's not how it works. That's not how any of this works. And yet, Dr. Morgan T. Griffin gestured to the engine, which was coming together at a disturbingly rapid pace. It is working. Sometimes the best theory is the one that doesn't explode, Dr. Morgan T. Griffin added with a shrug. The betting pool had evolved into an intricate mathematical model that was sending several probability theorists into existential crises. In just 45 minutes, the odds had gone from impossible to improbable to wait. What? Max took a step back to assess the team's progress, wiping their hands on their jumpsuit absent-mindedly and leaving streaks of what could have been quantum residue or coffee. Looking good, folks. We're ahead of schedule. Ahead of schedule? Dr. Olivia J. Collins's voice reached a pitch that could only be rivaled by hypersonic aircraft. You haven't even started the 3-month calibration sequence. Oh, we did that while we were building it, Ryan replied, emerging from behind the engine, their hair defying several laws of physics. Multitasking, you know? The gravitational alignment was fixed with a bubble-level app on my phone, Skylar chimed in. The quantum field harmonics are already sorted, Dr. Morgan T. Griffin added. Turns out if you hum at the right frequency, they just kind of snap into place. Who knew? Axon was practically vibrating with excitement now, their optical sensors recording everything. This completely contradicts every engineering principle we've established over the past 1,000 years. Yeah, we hear that a lot, Max grinned. Hey, anyone want some of Skylar's quantum coffee before we fire this thing up? Fair warning, it might make you see through time. Dr. Olivia J. Collins stared, helpless and fascinated, as her carefully constructed engine was transformed into something that looked like it belonged in a human garage, but somehow radiated more power than her original design. The worst part? She was starting to understand their logic, and it was giving her a headache. 10 minutes until test time, Max announced cheerfully. Ryan, how's the containment field holding up? Rock solid, Ryan replied confidently. The duct tape is making the quantum particles feel more at home. That sentence shouldn't make sense, Dr. Olivia J. Collins muttered. Welcome to human engineering, Axon said, still scribbling notes. I believe I'm starting to grasp their methodology. It's like applying organized chaos theory to practical physics. That's not even a thing, Dr. Olivia J. Collins protested. It is now, Schuyler said, high-fiving Ryan as they made the final adjustments. We're calling it the whatever works theory. We're considering publishing a paper, but it'll probably just be a series of shrugs, drug references, and coffee stains. The engine hummed with a sound that should have been impossible, according to at least 3 fundamental laws of physics. But, as is the case with most things humans encounter, the laws of physics appeared to have made an exception. As the humans stepped back from their creation, a quantum fusion engine that looked like it had been thrown together by hyperactive raccoons with engineering degrees, the Great Assembly Hall was plunged into what could only be described as a collective existential crisis. 28 minutes and 37 seconds, Axon announced, their chronometer flashing in disbelief. You completed the entire physical assembly in 28 minutes and 37 seconds. This isn't possible. I've run the calculations 14 times, Professor Noah Quill insisted, his probability tendrils twisting into knots. The mathematical probability of this happening is lower than finding a coherent thought in a politician's speech. Max wiped their hands on their jumpsuit, leaving behind a masterpiece of grease stains that had turned into an abstract work of art. Technically, we finished 5 minutes ago, they said, grinning. We just added some racing stripes to make it go faster. They must be joking, Dr. Olivia J. Collins muttered weakly. She turned to Axon for confirmation, only to find her assistant calmly painting the last stripe with what appeared to be quantum-enhanced nail polish borrowed from Schuyler. The stripes increase aesthetic efficiency by at least 12%, Axon remarked, completely unfazed by the chaos. The test preparation began with all the elegance of a drunken giraffe on roller skates, as the alien scientists scrambled to set up their traditional pre-test protocols, a process that typically took weeks. Meanwhile, the human team was already breezing through their own checklist. Coffee topped off? Max asked. Check, Schuyler answered, sipping from a mug containing liquid that seemed to exist in 5 dimensions at once. Duct tape backup supply? Ryan gave their utility belt an enthusiastic pat, which appeared to be made entirely of duct tape rolls and hope. Physics equations thoroughly disregarded, Dr. Morgan T. Griffin confirmed, still typing furiously on their console. I've made the laws of thermodynamics shed a tear. Dr. Olivia J. Collins had had enough. She dashed to the central control panel, her fingers flying over the keys as she input override codes. This test cannot proceed. The safety protocols. Oh, those things, Schuyler interrupted, grinning. We rewrote them. They were way too long. Now they just say, don't blow up and, if in doubt, hit it with a wrench. You can't do that! Dr. Olivia J. Collins' scales were flashing in a frantic display of colors. The safety protocols are 3,000 pages long for a reason, she argued. Yeah, and 2,000 of those pages were just different ways of saying, be careful in increasingly complicated language, Dr. Morgan T. Griffin pointed out. We streamlined it. The Alien Safety Committee, whose sole purpose seemed to be ensuring that nothing remotely interesting ever happened, stormed into the room, waving warning flags in 17 different colors, including 3 that were invisible to most species. According to Regulation 7249B subsection Thea 12, the head safety officer began, consulting a tablet that was longer than they were tall. Any new engine test requires a minimum of, already done, Max chirped, cutting them off. We checked all the boxes. What boxes? The officer demanded. The important ones, probably, Ryan said, holding up a checklist written on the back of a takeout menu. See? Make sure it doesn't explode. Check. Point the explodey end away from the face. Double check. Have fire extinguisher handy. Yep, we have 3. Those aren't the official safety parameters, the officer protested. Nope, but they're better, Schuyler grinned. They're actually useful. Meanwhile, Axon had been studying the humans' modifications with growing awe. Fascinating. They've actually improved the safety systems by removing all the redundancies. The original protocols were so focused on addressing every possible problem, they created new ones. The humans just solved the root issues with duct tape. Dr. Olivia J. Collins screeched in disbelief. Duct tape is approved for use in space. NASA says so, Max said nonchalantly. What's NASA? Someone whispered from the crowd. Human organization that straps massive rockets to people and shoots them at the moon for fun, Ryan explained casually. There are kind of people. The safety committee, now experiencing the 5 stages of grief, was stuck between denial and anger. The head officer kept trying to cite regulations, but their focus kept drifting to the engine, which was humming perfectly, something that should have taken months to calibrate. "But the quantum field harmonics," they protested weakly. "Fixed those with a rubber band and some positive thinking," Schuyler said proudly. "And the gravitational stability?" Ryan added. 3 good whacks with a wrench and some encouraging words. "The temporal displacement safeguards?" Dr. Morgan T. Griffin shrugged. "We told time to behave and it listened." Dr. Olivia J. Collins made one final, desperate attempt to restore order to her universe. "You can't possibly have accounted for all the variables. The complexity alone?" "Oh, that reminds me," Max interrupted, pulling out their tablet. "We simplified your design while we were at it. Turns out, you didn't need about 60% of those parts. They were just making things more complicated." A holographic display appeared, showing a streamlined version of the original engine. Dr. Olivia J. Collins' design had been a complex maze of systems, fail-safes, and redundancies. The human version? Elegant in its simplicity, it was like comparing a Rube Goldberg machine to a lever. "You removed the backup systems for the backup systems?" Dr. Olivia J. Collins' voice reached a pitch previously only attained by quantum particles in extreme distress. "Yeah," Max said with a shrug. "Turns out, if you build it right the first time, you don't need 17 layers of backups. Besides," they added, "we kept the important stuff, the on switch, the off switch, and the oh crap button." The betting pool had descended into full-blown chaos. Several mathematicians were trying to compute the odds of what they were witnessing, only for their probability calculators to shut down in protest with an error message flashing on the screen. Right then, Max clapped their hands together, breaking the tension. "Everyone ready for the test?" Max asked, their voice cheerful, as the alien scientists exchanged horrified glances. The safety committee was still struggling to cite regulations, but their tablets had somehow reorganized all their documents into haiku. Axon was practically bouncing with excitement, their optical sensors recording every moment of what they were already calling the revolution in engineering, a human perspective. As for Dr. Olivia J. Collins, she had reached a state of such profound disbelief that she had transcended normal anxiety and entered a kind of zen-like acceptance. Her scales had settled into a color that could only be described as existential crisis blue. The engine hummed contentedly, held together by a mix of human ingenuity, alien technology, and what appeared to be half a roll of duct tape. It was time for the moment of truth. "T- whatever to engine start," Max announced cheerfully. While behind them, Schuyler was already pressing buttons in a sequence that looked more like a game of whack-a-mole than an intricate startup procedure. The alien scientists had taken refuge behind their blast shields, triple-reinforced barriers designed to withstand anything short of a small supernova. Several were frantically updating their wills on their tablets. "Quantum field initialization," Ryan called out, spinning in their chair like a kid at a carnival. "Duct tape holding steady. Probability matrices stable." "Stable," Dr. Morgan T. Griffin reported, feet up on the console while solving a crossword puzzle. "Well, as stable as quantum mechanics ever gets. They're being a bit moody, but I gave them a pep talk." Dr. Olivia J. Collins watched in horror from behind her blast shield as the humans treated what was possibly the most dangerous moment in engineering history like they were making breakfast. Even worse, Axon had refused to take cover, standing right next to Max with a datapad, taking notes like an eager student at the world's most dangerous TED Talk. "Starting main sequence in 3, 2, 1.5, 1.25. Max grinned, completely unfazed. The entire alien assembly shouted in unison, "Spoil sports!" "All right, firing it up," Max called out. The engine hummed to life with a sound that somehow managed to be both terrifying and oddly musical, like a quantum physics orchestra conducted by a mad scientist. Blue light pulsed through the makeshift cooling system, still partially made of Ryan's coffee thermos, and the quantum matrices began their intricate dance. "Output at 20%, 50%, 80%, Schuyler called out, still sipping their coffee, which may or may not have been violating several laws of physics. "That's possible," Dr. Olivia J. Collins whispered, barely holding it together. The theoretical maximum efficiency was calculated at 89.2%. 100%, Schuyler continued, eyes gleaming. 120%, 135%. The alien scientists' probability calculators were committing suicide one by one, their screens flashing in confusion. 147% efficiency and holding steady, Schuyler announced triumphantly. She's purring like a quantum kitten. The blast shield slowly began to lower, and the alien scientists peeked out, their various sensory organs widening in disbelief. The engine wasn't just working, it was working better than their best theoretical scenarios had predicted, and it was doing so while partially held together with duct tape and blind optimism. We did it! Max's team celebrated, cracking open what appeared to be energy drinks glowing in colors not found in nature. Who wants some of the human special? It's like regular energy drink, but with a hint of quantum uncertainty. Dr. Olivia J. Collins approached the group, her scales now a shade of confused acceptance. How? Oh, that's easy, Max said, taking a swig of their drink. We eyeballed it. You eyeballed a quantum fusion engine? Dr. Olivia J. Collins asked in disbelief. Well, yeah, Max said casually. Sometimes you just have to feel the quantum, you know? No, I don't know. That's not how quantum mechanics works. That's not how anything works, Dr. Olivia J. Collins exclaimed. Ryan shrugged, already adding racing stripes to another section of the engine. Have you tried telling that to the engine? Because it seems to be working just fine. Meanwhile, Axon was going through their notes with religious fervor. This is remarkable! The humans have invented an entirely new field of engineering, quantum intuition theory. By reducing complexity and trusting fundamental principles instead of over-engineering solutions, they've achieved what we thought was impossible. We're calling it the Around and Find Out School of Engineering, Schuyler added helpfully. The Galactic Engineering Council had descended into full-blown chaos. Several members were demanding a complete revision of all engineering principles. Others insisted that this somehow violated a law of physics, though they weren't sure which one. A small group in the corner had started a support group for traumatized theoretical physicists. I'm going to study human engineering methods, Axon announced suddenly, their excitement barely contained. This could revolutionize our entire approach to technology, but their methods, they defy all logic. Exactly, Dr. Olivia J. Collins said weakly, her voice cracking. That's what makes them work. As the chaos raged around them, Max's team had already moved on to their next project. Apparently, they believed the facility's coffee maker could benefit from some quantum enhancements. You know what this means? Max grinned, watching the aliens try to process their new reality. What? The team asked in unison. Humans are technically the most advanced engineering species in the galaxy now, Max said proudly, and we did it with duct tape. To humanity, they cheered, raising their questionable glowing energy drinks in a toast. Meanwhile, in the background, the quantum fusion engine hummed happily, defying physics, logic, and alien sensibilities, held together by human ingenuity, sheer spite, and of course a generous amount of duct tape.